All right, and so what we're going to do is go with our last one, and I kind of titled this, Are We Stupid? And the answer is yes. Just want to let you know. So we're going to look at cause of death. And if you look on here again, we told you the number one was poverty. And you can see, the death toll, 11 million, annual death toll. Definitely not good. And then you see the number two up here is air pollution. That's something we don't have as much control personally at. And then the third one there is tobacco, smoking. And then we get down to pneumonia and the flu. So twice as many people die from tobacco as the pneumonia and flu. And I don't even know where we're going to put COVID-19 in here once the next edition comes out. And so anyway, you can see here that lots and lots of issues of where things and people die. So again, the top four, poverty was number one, being male is number two. We don't have that up here, and that's, although males are stupid, I guess it fits into what I'm saying. But then we get to tobacco, and I want to spend a little time on that. Because I'm sure I have smokers in the class. And if you're not smoking, you're probably vaping, and we'll talk about that just in a second. But this is one that we make choices on. You could not do this. This is a life choice. The air pollution is hard. Poverty is something you try not to be in, but again, hard to do. But smoking is definitely a personal choice. And so 6 million people die. Different illnesses. It's not necessarily toxicity from nicotine, but all kinds of issues. On the picture on the right, you have a normal lung on the left and one that has emphysema from smoking. And if you've ever known somebody that's had emphysema, that is not a way to go. I've known two different people. One died from it. The other person gave up smoking. And if you give up smoking, your lungs will actually repair themselves to a point. So it's really kind of a good idea to give it up. And I know it's addictive as hell, and definitely people have issues with trying to give that up. Okay, so, but vaping is another issue. That's the new way. And smoking cigarettes was really seeing a decline, but vaping now is back. The tobacco industry got smart. They're getting straight nicotine in you, and they're mixing it with some kind of nicotine fluid, vape fluid, and those have all kinds of chemicals. To come up with those flavors, there's chemicals in there, and so you're inhaling that deep into your lungs. So you are our study. So long-term effects of vaping, we don't know. We know that. The damage to the lungs is not great. We don't know the long-term effects, but thank you for playing. You are our guinea pigs. We know it's not good. All right, and then we got two more slides, and I want you to know these lists. These lists are important. 5 factors that cause people to poorly judge risks. One is fear. We don't want to look at it. We don't want to think about it. If we're scared of it, and the things we should be scared of, we're not, and it's going to come down to another one. But fear, it's something we just avoid. We don't talk about, we don't look at, because the fear of the unknown and what can happen. The degree of control, like air pollution, we have some control. We could make effort, we could do voting. But when you think about air quality, and we choose to live in areas, we live in LA and it's got bad air quality. We live in the valley, and that's got bad air quality. So these are, but we always feel, I have no control over that. Well, you do to an extent, but it's harder to do things that are make good judgments on things that we don't have control of. We look at things that are catastrophic or chronic. Catastrophic means one time, chronic or long term. We seem to be more afraid of the catastrophic. Part of that is the news. They show you, oh, you can get shot in LA but we really don't think about it. Car crashes are one of the highest ones, but we get in cars all the time. Some of the things that you see, we're worried about dying in a fire. We've had 3 people die, but if you think of all the people in California, the 3 people that died, that number is so low, the risk is so low. Airplane flights, same way. You see airplanes crash, they're all over the news, but that is really rare. You die more in car accidents than people die in airplane crashes by the number that do it. So, it depends on how we look at it. Optimism bias, and this is my best, and you can see this with COVID, it's not going to happen to me. I'm pretty optimistic that it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody else. And we're seeing that in the young people, some young people, not everybody, but some young people. If I get sick, I'll just get a little sick. And you may, there are asymptomatic carriers, but you could be one of those that don't make it. And then instant gratification, and that's with tobacco. That feel that you get, that high you get from cigarette smoke and nicotine. You don't think about, the emphysema that's going to be 20 years from now. And that little amount, you feel good now, worry about it later. So those are the 5. And then what are the guidelines for evaluating and reducing risk? You need to compare risk. You need to look at, what are the chances if I do this and this? And we don't always do that. We don't sit down and think about, maybe this is not a good idea. How much risk are you willing to accept? Sometimes, getting in the car, it's like, I have to get from A to B. I'm going to take that risk, but there are ways, there are highways that are more dangerous. You could take a different route. I know, and you guys aren't, I grew up around here, and Highway 71 was actually really dangerous at one point. Just because it was a 2-lane highway, there was no barrier in the middle, and it was not well lighted. The lanes were thin. Today, it's been increased in size, and there's a barrier now, so the risk is. But there were times, 71 was one of those little cheat streets you could drive down that not everybody took, and you can get down there quicker. But was it worth it to get quicker? Just speeding. We know that as you go over 55, it turns out, but 65 is the speed limit. As you increase your speed, the chances of you dying in an accident are greater. Are you willing to accept the risk? Do you even think about it? Do you compare the risks? Evaluate actual risk. Is this actually dangerous? And again, we do not do that well. We worry about the big things like the earthquake, and we should. But do we worry about the little things on a day-to-day basis? And we don't necessarily do that. And then make good lifestyle choices. We're not telling you, if you smoke, you shouldn't. I mean, easy to say, hard to do. I know it's addictive. But maybe, hey, I smoke a pack a day. Maybe I can break that down into 3/4 of a pack or half a pack. Just slow it down. Make good lifestyle choices. Or when you're picking food, it's, can I eat better? And maybe, it's not every day. Maybe it's, you start with, hey, I'm going to do 1 meal a week, and work your way to a healthier system. So good luck, but you are all going to die. And that is the last of the chapter 4 recordings. And so we will do a couple more recordings on the ecology.